Well, greetings. Hello again. Welcome to the channel. Here I am on another platform because I have not worked out yet. No, I'm going to say it the way it comes out. I am still working out the mechanics of the process. Maybe I'm a slow learner, whatever it is, relative to live streaming. I have a certain way I want to present, and I've attempted to use several different platforms, and I've done a couple of things. I've repeated a couple of issues or problems with the one that I have been using just lately, which I actually very well like, but I'm still learning it. However, as I start to do a presentation and share a screen, much to my dismay, after reviewing it and after talking for almost an hour, turns out that when I shared the different screens, there was no audio. So you get all this visual and no audio. That wasn't cool. So I'm working it out. At this point in time, what I want to do is I participated in a um, symposium, you might say, this past week. It was called Peace Week, 99 Days of Peace. And they also had the last week of the 99 days, because today would be like a day 102 or something like that. Um, I gave two talks, one of which was referred to as the Great Value Reset, and the other was on, well, gosh, what was the other one on? Trying to think of it now. I got the Great Value Reset, in front of me, but the other had to do with my map of oneciousness. Oneciousness is something that I created this past year, and I'm still in the process of introducing it and talking about it. And so, in fact, the last two that I streams that I did was on the map of oneciousness, and this is where I discovered upon finishing the stream that, gosh, there was no audio in portions of it. So I'm going to give this thing another go. Well, excuse me. First of all, so I'm on this platform now called, it's not Restream. This is StreamYard. And I took their badges and their watermarks off, but I haven't put mine on. But I'm going to do this presentation, and these are just the slides. Now, I did a PowerPoint, and so I've got this nice little animation thing happening, where I can do this and I can click, and none of that. I uploaded the PowerPoint, but the way StreamYard works, you just get what's there. You get the final. So there's no animated come in and stuff like that. We're not going to be doing that. But maybe it'll get me. But I'm confident that there's not going to be any hiccups, so to speak, other than ones that I might do myself. And we're going to talk about something called the Great Value Reset. This was the second one, and in my Peace Week presentation, I didn't get all the way through. So I'm watching time. I'm 3.5. I'm almost 4 minutes in, and I've got 56 slides. But I'm going to be moving through them. They're not going to be coming in. We're going to get in and get to the thought. And where we go, in fact, I'll begin the process by showing. Let us see how I do this. See, I'm already just figuring it out. Oh, there I am. Okay. So this is the Great Value Reset through the power of cooperation. And at the end of this, well, I'm going to be, all of this is leading up to a simple fact that there is a way to change things. We've got issues with, you know, the world is right now, it's going to hell in a handbasket, and quite, you might say it's already there. You know, it may be in the appetizer phase, or depending on where you are, it may be in the main course. But there's a host of issues that people are expressing a great amount of concern over, and they're expressing the concern because they don't have solutions. may not even acknowledge that they don't have solutions. But if you're expressing a concern about something, it's because you don't know how to fix it, or you don't know that there is a solution. And oftentimes, the people who are telling you that there's something to be concerned about are hoping that you're not knowing that there's another way. So I'm basically here to present that there is another way. However, to build on that and to get to that, because I'm going to invite you even now, spoiler alert, I'm going to invite you to do something, to join something, and to make a difference in your life, and a positive difference in your life, an empowering difference in your life. So I'm giving you that up front. Um, that's the goal. That's the objective here. And if you have no interest in doing that, because we can't go from wherever we are right now to a better place by continuing the thinking and the attitudes that we are using. Because we can say it's someone else is doing, but if we are thinking and having some issues about it, it's we are contributing to it. So we need to be contributing positively to our positive change, and that's what this talk is about. And quite frankly, that's every time I get in front of a camera, that's what it's about. Certainly it's for me, but ultimately I share what I've learned and share the perspective. Do I know it all? Hell no. However, I know I don't know it all, and therefore I can stay in a neutral place and allow new information to come in, and then evaluate it and see, okay, how does this work, or does it work? So with that said, I'm going to actually let us begin. So this is called the Great Value Reset through the power of cooperation. And I will get into that as we go along. Here we go. A little bit about me, and that is the fact that I have written some books. I'm an author of a couple books. I'm a publisher of several books as well. I'm also a producer of some recordings, one of which being The Door of Everything by Ruby Nelson, which is on my YouTube channel, 12 chapters there. Earlier this year, I published The Screwtape Letters, which was a book that was written by C.S. Lewis, and a fascinating little ditty, so to speak, 31 chapters. And I did a reading of it, and that was fun. It's thought-provoking, and that is literally what is, you might say, part of the prescription for change. We need to provoke some new ways of looking at things now, as well as beyond. So let us start with this next thing. In the sense, this slide basically is this Buckminster Fuller, who is famous for suggesting that you never change things by fighting, and the inside there, or bitching about. That's my addition. The existing reality. To let's just do that. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. This is what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be outlining a way to do this with an institution that is so intrinsic to us all, and so huge, and so ingrained in our way of looking at things, that we haven't seen a way to wean ourselves from it, and to wean our thinking, and wean, I would say, our dependencies from it. So, yeah. However, before we go there, we're going to start with some inner work. Let's put it this way. And I call it conscious reconnection. And so what does that basically mean? Well, it has to do with consciousness. It's not a phrase that we talk about that often in our normal conversation about consciousness, but consciousness is synonymous with spirituality, first of all. Uh, it is connected to the idea that we're all interconnected. And so that's going to be coming up further on in this talk. But consciousness itself, spirituality, these words are synonymous, and these words are all encompassing. They encompass all of all of creation, in fact, all of our experience. We have a tendency to think in either or terms, in discrete terms. It's this or that, there or then, so to speak. And in that orness is essentially a disconnect from the then and the there, the connectivity of it all, the relativity of each of those. So while I don't have a screen in here or slide in here in this particular talk to talk about that, the either or, I'm going to suggest here that instead of an either or, and so there will be a slide for this, it's a both and. Consciousness is both and. It's involved with the what you see of the physical and physicality and what you don't see. See, we think of ourselves as physical beings, and then there's a spiritual being and a physical being, but the two are not connected. I'm here as a part of this conversation, as a part of this presentation, and a part of the setup for what we're going to talk about. It is implicit that all are interconnected, and consciousness is, as I said in my other talking about the map of one-justness, because we are one thing. The word one-justness actually became evident and relevant with the insertion of this idea that all are one and interconnected. So there's a oneness that underlies everything, and consciousness is the is the influencing factor of all of these things. And you are a unit of consciousness. You are a spirit. I am a spiritual being as well. I am a consciousness. I have a consciousness, and I am a sentient being. And sentience is one aspect of intelligence. I'm talking about the real kind. So, inertia of consciousness in this respect, as far as this slide is concerned, has to do with the tendency to continue along the same perceptual path, not but a perceptual path. Consciousness perceives, but not only does consciousness perceive, consciousness imagines, and not only that, consciousness can actually convert what is imagined into what is perceived, and even more so into what is actually experienced. That is the connective tissue. So let us see here. So the tendency to continue along the same perceptual path due to traditions, culture, familiarity, or social convention, and the logic, thinking, beliefs, and affiliated actions, thereby repeating a consistent pattern of experiences. That is the inertia of consciousness. And this could be, say, the track that the consciousness is on, individually as well as collectively. So you have an individual contribution to the track of your own experience, which is unique in all of creation. And then on the other hand, you may have another track, a more desired one. For example, in the Peace Week festivities and the meetings and all the talks and presentations, the idea was to achieve peace, a peaceful world, a peace on earth by the year 2030. Now, it's very interesting that there's another group of people who have maybe it's their version of peace. Maybe it's where they think that they'll have peace of mind, so to speak, if they achieve this. but it basically involves those people, which is a very, very tiny group, essentially putting out a plan for the rest of the population of the planet, and actually even expecting this to happen. And coincidentally, it's by 2032. That's right, not 2032 as the year, but 2030 also as is the same as the folks who have peace. But I'll tell you the who want peace by that time. And I'll say the definition of peace, that for the people who are wanting it and calling for peace by 2030, and the definition of what this other group has in mind, with smart cities and where you'll own nothing and be happy, et cetera, et cetera. And they're also looking at something called UBI, Universal Basic Income, and a few other things that they have in mind for everyone else, perhaps except them. Well, they're not going to be the same thing. And now, with all that said, here's another trajectory that likely you are interested in, or I'm interested in. And that trajectory is enacted in the now. And I'm realizing very likely that you cannot see my mouse, my pointer, where I'm pointing, but you see the circle on the left side. That is, circle is right on the left side. That would be an indication of the now. And the other would be what might be on in the 2030 side. Well, actually, the light one, is another path, another track. In some cases, some people might say another timeline. And that timeline is crossed now. To begin creating that, to get to, and it's essentially you get on this different trajectory. You get on it now by things that you do now. And so, from a peace standpoint, for example, you get on you become it. You be an example of it. You imagine it now. You conceptualize it now, and then you go into and you live through your living. You begin to effectuate that experience, but it begins now, and that even means the feeling of it happens now. And the point is, it's not limited to peace, because the objective of this particular talk has to do with adding another component. And that component is abundance, is prosperity, is something that is a function and a result of your own activity, not the ideas that someone has decided would be best for you based on some ledger sheet, or a list of commodities and things like that. We're not stuck, so to speak. We are living beings, and actually we're very powerful. And heck, the ones that are doing this has this other idea, they're powerful too. The issue is that they're no more powerful than you. Their thoughts are no, let's say it this way: the universe is no more responsive to their thoughts as it is to yours. They are not special to the universe beyond any specialness that you or I have. And so that's a place of awareness that each of us needs to, in my opinion at least, needs to go. And so I've spent this amount of time on this one slide. Now, this is one that's 4 minutes long that you're not going to hear, because I can't. It's just a picture. But there's a video online called The Meek's Prayer, which I wrote and performed. And it is, it's there. Okay, so we're going to move on. So here's another thing. We're still setting things up. And what we're setting there is this. We're in the process of getting to this fundamental place of what your power is and what my power is, and perhaps what our purpose is as well. So these next 3 slides talk about Bible references. These are some of the most, I'd say, profound and famous statements that are in the Bible. It is, in the beginning was the Word. So I'm doing this in 3 steps. What you can hear my comments about this. You can't touch them, but they touch you all the time. Long before paper, words have influenced human minds. All that we believe and what we think we know have established a place in our minds through words put to stone, papyrus, paper, visual media, or sound. And the word was with God. While some have more impact than others, our lives are influenced by every word that holds our attention, personally or impersonally, as uttered by another human being. The words that have taken on meaning to us form an atmosphere in our mind and consciousness, becoming influencers by deflection, attraction, repulsion, or neutrality. Unless we evaluate and vet the meaning and efficacy of the thoughts and words that are directed our way, they will become the framework and context by which our life experiences will be shaped and ultimately lived. And the Word was God. For all the influence that words have, and it's more than we realize, the power to alter any influence that they may have rests with the receiver perceiver. What does that mean? It means no matter how influential words are, the power to alter their meaning rests with you and me, the one who is actually checking this out and considering what is being said or what thoughts are being directed to us, because our words, or not say our words, but words themselves, are simply proxies for thoughts. These are uh, ways of perceiving thoughts in this particular realm, because thought is, quite frankly, you can't see or measure those, but you can at least detect them basically through the facility of words. And you can also tell many things by words that are not said in the same kind of way. So you can alter or eliminate the power that words, or those who present for access to your mind, have over you. You can energize new visions seen with and by your heart through new thoughts and words with new outcomes that you will love giving birth to. And I would even add here now, through your actions. So here we go. We are not here to make money. We're going to be talking about something totally related to this, but I'm making it clear up front. This is not a conversation. This is not a talk about money. This is not about making money. This is about building and creating something else. So the phrase, well, we're going to talk about money right now, with that having been made very, very clear up front. This is not about making money. We are not here. We, being spiritual beings, are not here to make money. And that's been drummed into our minds and heads and our beliefs and our everything else from probably before we got here, because it was drummed into the minds of our predecessors. So this is we'll talk about um, something that we need to understand. My grandmother made this real clear to me by something I'll tell later, another story, okay? The phrase "follow the money" and others like it have crossed, I see edits I need to make, okay, but I'm making notes of it, the path of human consciousness with such constancy that it has a significant drain on human consciousness. This idea of following money, etc., and defining ourselves in that context has produced a drain. It's been it's like a siphon. Even though money has no consciousness of its own, many who have been entrusted with the most have little active conscience. Yeah, you think I'm well? You can. There's plenty of ways of showing the evidence of it, but here's one. This is a little sketch or thing that I created. So here's got someone, and they're following the money. So here it says follow the money, and again I'm realizing I'm pointing to the text that's in the cone, so to speak, in the vision, the field of vision of the individual, and it says follow the money. And the other words just below the word follow is chase, take, uh, what is that of? Covet, need is circle, well, not circle, but emphasize, need the money. But all these are associated with money, and this is what is filling their mind, their consciousness. Now, outside of this and closer to them are such things as intelligence, justice, conscience, kindness, harmony, health, knowledge, truth, wisdom, cooperation, peace. And I got a red line through those because they're set aside while this thing called money is being focused on and is the object of one's full attention for all practical purposes. Money idioms and axioms. Well, money makes the world go round. Show me the money, your money or your life. Born into money. What is the others there? The love of money is the root. If you've heard that, of all evil, money to burn. You think I'm made of money? Other people's money. Time is money. Money doesn't grow on trees. On the money, this idea is money. Oh, that's money. I'm throwing another one in. Money is no object. Pour money down the drain. Money talks. Easy money. Okay, these are all concepts. Why isn't peace so easy? Why isn't trust so easy? Why isn't love so easy? We're guarded for many, many reasons, and much of it is associated with this and our perception of gain and what gain is or the lack thereof. So, this is a word, this is something. We're going to take the I am off of the term impossible, because when you do that, it becomes possible, and it becomes possible now. Let's continue. So, setting some other standards. Remember, we talked about consciousness, and we're talking about also consciousness. Consciousness is, it's right here, always is. Life is consciousness. Now, I mentioned spirituality. We're spiritual beings. We are a both and kind of something, is what we are. We are a both and. So therefore, when you start talking about either or, life is consciousness, and I will continue here. It is the existence of which is expressed as a continuum of cognition. Well, what does that mean? Cognition, it's awareness. It's the ability to be aware. And because it is a continuum, that continuum of cognition is independent of the form. That's the next step. Consciousness is not defined by the existence or presence, another typo, or presence of a physical form. You want evidence of this? Go to, before you go to sleep tonight, think about it, and actually think about something that is on your mind, and make it pleasant. Okay, if we're doing this, but think about something that's important, something you're passionate about, or something that you really like to do. But think about it before you go to sleep, and also consider that you will remember this when you're awakened, or when the next day or time you wake up, and there'll be a connection. I will suggest to you that in the remembering of this, in the having of that experience, you will go places, you will be places that are actually foreign to you, actually some places that you've not seen before. And therefore, it'll be something, well, your body certainly isn't there, but you are. If you're bringing back a recollection of some place that you've been or something that you've seen, and yet now when you wake up and you look around you, it's not there, then you've been someplace else. But this is evidence of the extra physical nature, the independence of the form relative to the consciousness that you are. You are a consciousness. You are a spiritual being, as am I. I am a consciousness. Those words can be used interchangeably to describe the same thing. The point that I'm making here, as the person, the one that authored a book called I Am My Body, we're not our bodies. And yet we are a consciousness. We do have an imagination, which is ours. And we are free to use it any way we actually wish. And there are gradations of value associated with the mentality that we also connect to the experience. So consciousness encompasses and influences all aspects of said experience and slash creation. And so with that, and my jumpy darn, my jumpy mouse, come on mouse, I think you're going to be a candidate for a replacement. So here we go. The term death applies to the withdrawal of the energy and presence of the being from this experiential realm, not the end of one's existence. See, consciousness continues. Consciousness is on a track of a continuum of experience as well as a continuum of awareness. Because the existential continuum is inviolate, meaning it can't be destroyed. Science has already confirmed that energy can't be destroyed. Well, consciousness and energy is a part of consciousness. Energy actually forms and reforms itself in association with a consciousness, which establishes the instruction set, the patterns for which and by which the energy does the formation and takes its marching orders, so to speak. So, and morphism, that's change, is its fundamental constant. No one dies, therefore, no one can be quote unquote killed. You are an infinite, intelligent, sentient, pleomorphal creator being who creates experiences of a given quality. And so, this is something, again, is not necessarily a part. Science has been, confounded by it with no real guidance. Religions have been politicized by it. You've got your groups who say this and say that. You have also people who have rejected maybe not science, but all religions. Consciousness doesn't care about any of this stuff. Consciousness is what it is, and you are what you are, and you are energy. Consciousness is all connected to it, and we do know that it does not go away. It simply changes. And the intelligence that's associated with it is also subject to change, is subject to growth. And evidence of that growth will come out through the experiences that we create. So it's a pretty cool thing when you really get down to it. Now, these next slides are going to be talking about triples, you can say triunes, so to speak. And I'm realizing I got one viewer. I see that you're out there someplace, but I'm going to have to pause here for 2 minutes, and then I will return. So you're going to see or hear some nothing, some silence, and then I'll be right back. All right, I am back. What I'm going to do, this is Adam Abraham, and this is Consciousness Prime. That's what I'm calling this. I'm calling it now. I may call it something else later, but what we're doing basically is going through a presentation called the Great Value Reset, which I gave at the Peace Week conference. Let's go back into this screen, and I will continue. Here are threes, and you'll see there's actually four like this, but God, Creator, whatever your name, we can say Allah, doesn't matter. These are all concepts, but here goes: energy, potential, and supply. Infinite energy, infinite potential, infinite supply. Yeah, that's an 8 that I put on its side. Okay, so it's laying on sideways, but it stands for infinity. It's what it relates to, and that's what it means. Now it turns out those play in others as well. Here is the human. We're also infinite. There's an infinite mind. There's an infinite soul. There's an infinite spirit. This is who we are. This is what we are. Our bodies come and go, but we are literally without beginning and without end. That is who we are. We are essentially, you could say, fragments of the first one. The power to create is also infinite. And so, because we have infinite supply, we have infinite energy, infinite potential, therefore, peace is not simply possible. Peace exists somewhere, somewhen. Okay. Health exists somewhere, somewhen. Prosperity exists somewhere and somewhen. And because we are infinite, as is our creator, there are no limitations whatsoever except the ones that we you might say are suggested to embrace, and then we habituate into this I'm not even going to say an infinite loop. It just seems infinite. It's a finite loop, because when we change our minds about things, the situation changes. These are things we need to know about ourselves, and typically we don't. And we have an infinite universe, which is conscious, interconnected, and evolving. So, enough of that. Reimagined relationships. This is where my animation just got messed up. So, we will, but I have one next. There we go. What happened here? Okay. A reimagined relationship. Instead of thinking in terms of ones and zeros, the binary model that we tend to rely on and we're so accustomed to, this is a more accurate representation, because we are a one, but we are a fragment of an infinite. We are infinite in our own nature. The one that we actually are, we are the consciousness, we are the spirit, we're the soul. All of those words, we don't need to parse them down into the very minute specifics of each, but the qualities of uh, limitlessness, the qualities of you know total sufficiency, the ability to do the things that we need to do or to imagine differently, they all exist with us when we change something within ourselves. And so the part of the purpose of this is to set this different stage of thinking. At least you'll see where my thinking is from when we start this off talking about, well, we're going to talk about something called money and about the creation of that for each of us that can be done, and not just in our lifetime, but actually before the year is out. Okay. However, before we get there, if we are in a consciousness of not of impossibility, you remember that slide where we had the word impossible, but the I am was taken out. What we're going to be doing when we talk about the map of consciousness is we're going to be factoring the I am in. So take I am out, but put in I am, because we're using I am now, oftentimes with not too happy results. So essentially, the flame is one of the best examples of to describe the nature of what we really are. We are energetic beings of great power, of great ability, that literally is involved in creating all that we see, all that we experience. And there's things that some people are experiencing that I'm not experiencing, but it's because I'm not imagining that stuff. I'm not putting myself in resonance with those kind of experiences. When you start acknowledging that there are 8 billion people, there are 8 billion beings, consciousness, so spirits, souls, it's whatever name you want to say, that are associated with physical forms on this planet right now. And those are the ones simply with physical forms. There's a larger population of souls and spirits that are also here associated with Earth, that are also connected with things that are happening on Earth. And we tend to act as though they don't exist. That's one of our problems. They do exist because there's no death. There is a continuum of life that science and religions, you got to take and embrace and accept a whole bunch of hokum around jumping into any one particular. Okay, and then you start living it and not living it. You start, oh well, I'm okay with this and not okay with that. And as a social organization and a socialization one, it's not that they're bad. It's not about the religion itself. It's not about the science. It's just simply an incompleteness to what's being told, and we're living in a state of incomplete understanding. And I mean fundamental, because to know without doubt that you are an immortal being now, you don't have to jump through some hoops and pass some test and this, that, and the other in order to gain entry. You're already a member in good standing with the universe because you already exist. You are here. You are free, and you are ever able to change the quality and course of your life. So that being said, what's the next thing here? So if we were going to have a different look at the planet, see, this is another in my PowerPoint. This is kind of you see the Earth first, and then you see the ring around it, stuff like that. But if we're looking at the Earth, and normally you see the Earth and the people that are there, that are on it, the population is implicit in the picture of the planet itself. You kind of know that it's inhabited, there's life there, etc. What we don't appreciate is that there is also life you could say, in the ether itself, on different planes, on dimensional planes that are not generally visible in the bandwidth of our perception, of our general perception. Most people, and I'll say, or at least I'll feel that all people have the ability to have perceptions that go beyond the bandwidth of their five senses of this, seeing, hearing, taste, feel, and touch. We have more senses and abilities to perceive more. This is where inspiration comes from, and this is also where desperation comes from. It depends on where you habituate in consciousness as to what ideas you pick up and what visions of life you see in the moment, as well as in the future. But if we understand that there are people, there are beings just like you and I who continue to have an existence after the physical form is done, whether they broke it, whether they abused it, whether they followed all kind of the advice of the current narratives and was ground down, chopped up, and built into oblivion, it doesn't really matter. When we done with the form, but we have not become done with the anxieties and with the fears or with the resentments, those you take with you. The regrets, these are things you take with you because you're consciousness. And this is what informs the experiences that you will continue to have until you just decide, I think I'm going to go for something else. This has worked for too long. I'm going to go for better. I'm going to be better. And the point is, we can choose to do that now. So what's the next thing here? Boom, 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 boom. Here we go. So, wow, got part one out the way. Here's part two. So there are three parts to this. On the third part of this presentation, we're going to talk about this mechanism for changing and doing things with the value that we are, because that's the next part of this. Let's go with it. Here it goes. So this was an interesting graphic that came up on my feed on Facebook once, and it's by this guy, Philip K. Dick. And so you see what he basically said. The basic tool for the manipulation of reality is the manipulation of words. Now, gosh, where is the Bible? That's where the Bible thing. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. And then when you start looking at, well, okay, that actually makes sense, and that's profound. It's because this is a very, very powerful thing here. If you can control the meaning of words, you can control the people who must use the words. That's what Philip K. Dick had to say. I decided to put a few addenda into what he had to say. So instead of saying control the meaning of words, you can influence the meaning of words. People are the ones who decide what the words mean to them. And I'm not ever going to control what a word means to you. I know what it means to me, and I know when I want to, even to the point of not using certain words. I won't use certain words for the same reasons. But in addition to that, I have the ability to reinterpret them in a different way. And I also have the ability, as do you, the ability to create new ones. If new ones would make things clearer, make understandings, or restore some basic truths that have been, kind of made conjecture, made subject to conjecture. Okay, so essentially, if you can influence the meaning of words, you can influence the people who think they must abide by the words. It's the thoughts behind the words that matter. That's going down below. Own your thoughts, or someone else's thoughts will own you. And essentially, that's kind of what's happening, because if we aren't being our own gatekeepers for what people tell us and determine the truth of those words, of those ideas, because they're really thoughts, they will actually own our asses. Okay, the words will, the ideas, or the ones who actually created them in the first place, perhaps knowing you would just simply trust them, we would trust them, doesn't matter, and just listen to what they said, maybe because they are supposed to be an authority or this, that, or the other. Excuse me, they have no more power than you do, and they are subject to the same true laws of the universe as you and I. We are equals in the law of the universe, even if not equal in the law of the land, so to speak. You have to decide which law you're going to live by. So everything. Oh, I'm looking at this because this is also an animation, and it's got people going along the top, and then they're going down the side on that left side, and then you see the lines that are coming down and saying, "Stay in your lane, stay in your lane." And in a way of speaking, that is how we actually do life. We get into a certain place, so to speak, of thinking about ourselves. We decide, okay, well, this quote unquote is who we are, at the moment. And then we put blinders on, and when we just go down that, we're specialists. You've heard the term, jack of all trades, master of none. That's really like just a put down, because someone is a specialist, and on the other hand, if someone's a specialist of this and they have no awareness of how what they do affects others outside of their specialty, how it affects the whole, and on all the different dimensions and planes that it affects them on. This is spiritual myopia, and that gets rewarded in this society. Well, in terms of setting up new paradigms, that to me becomes something we need to change. Here's another: boxes limit our awareness of our connection to and influence on the whole. It's not simply the whole of my life, it's on others. It affects all of creation when you begin to understand that we are connected to everything. We are a continuum of life itself, and therefore we have a continuum of connection with those who have no longer have form. Many things that they loved, they still love. Many things and people that they care about, they still care about, especially those that are truly beneficial, because the spirit, soul, the universe is evolving. And in the evolution, that means an overall improvement. There's an overall trend toward betterment. Okay, not one over another, not good versus evil or anything like that. It's not about that. If we didn't have the converse of what is normal, the things that we don't like, nothing could exist. Everyone that exists for their own reasons, and they serve a purpose that makes the whole thing possible. But within that milieu, that's a French word, um, all things are possible. And that means that there is a way to affect the things that you and I really want to have. Now, with a universe of infinite supply, it means that the people who are doing what you might think or I might think are dastardly stuff, well, it's universal supply, infinite possibility. Yeah, okay, fine. I don't have to make them my issue. I am not judging them. It's not rightness or wrongness, it's isness. And the people who connect to them are those who connect to them. And it's not me. So, on the other hand, there are things that I do want to connect to, and there is a way to go about doing this. So, a lot of it has to do with this thing, this perception, this idea, this construct called money, and this image, which I created with Midjourney, one of the AI tools. I created a prompt, and well, I had to do it a few times to get one that I liked, but this basically gave the idea of value, uh, well, money, which is not value itself. Money is the result of where value is directed by living beings, living immortal beings for that matter, which are you and I. Uh, but money itself is morphing, and the strings that are associated and indicated by this image are basically going to become less visible, but more um, active in our society. Now, evidence of spiritual error. I have a way of doing things in the sense that um, I do arithmetic with words. I play around with words, and you start seeing some amazing things in them, amazing messages and everything else. But the arithmetic that I do, one example of that arithmetic is in the use of the word terror. You know, people have thrown that word around: terror, terrorism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people are on alert, and you've got to do all these things because of what a terrorist may be doing. Got to make all of these precautions and everything is because of what the fear of what someone may be doing. And so the um, arithmetic that I've done is imagine that word terror or terrorist, and you simply do a little math in the sense, or do a little mathematical operation by uh, subtracting the T from the word terror or terrorist. You subtract that T, and what do you get? You get error. And someone who is doing making an error is an errorist. Okay, so but error exists. First of all, spirit consciousness is real. It's everlasting. It's living. It's life, and therefore there is. Gosh, how do I say this? There is what we see, what we think, is what we are told, is our interpretation of things, and what we it's what we say too, and it's what we think more so, because you can think things without saying them, but you can't say things without thinking them first. So it's the thoughts that are really important. Uh, but if you take the word terror or terrorist and take off the T, you have an error or an errorist. And my contention is, and that's with the map of consciousness, what you see in the background is a portion of the map of consciousness that I created. And that's the subject of another presentation. But it is something that is, I call it like a Rosetta Stone, because you can see the differences, the gradations in value of various ideas, various thoughts, and these are various expressions of consciousness. And so to it makes the errors of in our activity and our thinking clearer. You start to be able to see the relative effects of this way of habitual thinking. You know, I'm saying this meaning fill in the blank, okay? And so, but what you get, what you experience as a result of this habit, which has become an experience, a pattern of repeated experiences, is debt, disease, tension. If these words describe your predominant experience now and repeated experience, there's a reason for this. So, shock, trauma, deception, lies, conflict, war, strife, fearfulness, competitive, antagonism, classification, medical conflict, polarization, isolationism, horror, disaster films. What you end up getting is this is emptiness, isolation, loneliness, neediness. This is where the desire to have peace in some other time, somewhere down the line, closer now maybe than we may have thought before, but still not now. And ultimately, when you see how the map of consciousness works, and you start really realizing that there is only now. Now is eternal. There is only here. Here is the place where these things and where these changes are made. Not just that they're made, but they are set into motion now. They are inculcated within our hearts, or maybe you might say the blocks are taken out from our hearts, so that it now flows freely, because those are the seeds of peace. It's not in sit back withholding until such time as the world gets better, so to speak, and someone else changes. And so we'll always have the tool of blame, for example, as one of projection, of denial, of our own complicity. And it could be uh, unconscious. It could be without awareness. It could be without real intent to create harm. But nonetheless, the lack of sufficient regard to actually put an end to harm that is happening, to not contribute to it, to not be party to it. When we become party to something out of expediency, out of, oh, let's get along, for whatever rationalization we choose, we our consciousness slides. And in so doing, our power dims, it wanes, it weakens. Now we have the ability to change that, which is the purpose of this particular presentation. But the point is, until I acknowledge these things within myself, I can't change it. Now I've made those kind of acknowledgments, and still doesn't mean I've got it all out myself. It's not that you're finished, or we're going to be finished products getting through this thing called life. But there are things that we can put an end to starting right now. So what's next? What is oneciousness? This is simple. The principle of one. That there's only one thing. All that we are seeing and existing and everything, talking about and everything else is simply one thing. This isn't Adam's original observation. It is the way I see things now. It makes sense, but it's been presented by a number of different people. Walter Russell was one who presented that, along with some really profound other insights about life, and explaining, you could say, the physics of uh, of reality in some respects, in terms of how the motions of the universe. But there are other people who have done the same thing. But the point basically is that they affirm that the interconnectedness of everything and everyone, source and the extensions, make up one infinite whole. Life is timeless and spaceless. It is not physical, but we see it in terms of physical and non-physical. But essentially, these are both subsets of the same thing, of the one thing. The spiritual, the consciousness, that is the one that is the continuum. That's the continuum of awareness. That's the continuation of um, of perception. It's the choice, it's the judgment, it's the judge, so to speak, of what it has created. You might look at certain things that you've lived in life and you're happy about them. And there are others that, yeah, I could do better. Well, there's a whole bunch, because you start looking at the fallacies that we as a society have institutionalized, and not just institutionalized, made it such that, oh, you can't even think of not doing this or not doing that. Excuse me, you can think about not doing this, because if we want things to really get better, some of these things are going to have to go away. If I am coming back to a world, so to speak, such as the reality that we see here on earth presently, some things are going to have to be different, or I'm going to either be part of helping make them become different. And one of them has to do with what we're talking about right now. So everyone has equal standing. even though most don't know it. We don't really know we have equal standing because we look at stuff. We look at what people have or what people have passed on from lifetime to lifetime. And it's not just the stuff, it's also the attitudes. And so we can't see the attitudes, we only see the stuff. And so we're trying to get equality by, in some kind of way, getting more stuff, or in a situation where we have more stuff that we can get too, or money that we can get. But when we are set on trying to get money, and I was talking to someone about this earlier today, when we're set on trying to get money, and that essentially is our standard, we find ourselves in the situation where you succeed at getting that, but that has been your focus and your goal, and you set aside these other things that are actually more important, which are value based, and which actually are priceless. But it's where, and you can say immeasurable. They are immeasurable things, but without them, our sense of value of ourselves starts to go lower, because we don't care about others. We don't care about what um, what what is happening to them. You know, some have to win, some are losing. Well, I'm going to be a winner, quote unquote. But to be in that mindset, which is the mindset that is involved with money, you have to set aside. Not you have to. You set aside. People who do certain things set aside a concern for anyone else, and that's because they don't see the oneness that they share with others. And in that regard, they don't see the futures that they actually set up for themselves. That's another key point. Let's go on. The power of no. The the man who lives in his spiritual nature does not believe, quote unquote, but knows that his being is one with God, the great parent. This book is from Dweller on Two Planets, by Philos, the Tibetan, I think it's called. And Philos, I was totally drawn to this book, intrigued by it because of Philos, because in the late 1990s, when I got my first website, I wanted philosopher.com, and it was already taken. But it was because of the Philos part. The word Philos refers to love. It's the love of knowledge. Philosopher is a lover of knowledge, and for me, it was a passion for humanity. So instead of saying Philos, of course, it wasn't available, I chose philosopher, which I pronounce as philosopher, but I spell with an AE instead of an I. And, in hindsight, I could have had a Y, a PHYLOSOPHER, but I chose AE, and that's been mine. So I ended up reading this book, which was published in I think in the late 1900s. Amazing book, super book. Here's another video that you won't see. It's another 2-3 minutes by Grady Tate, and it's called A Sack Full of Dreams. And it's just some beautiful lyrics. This was published in the mid 1960s. So now we're getting into talking about value. And here are going to be two slides that basically indicate and show the same thing. And what is it showing? Essentially, the distribution of stuff in terms of who is holding it, or the population. And it turns out that 48% of the world's gross domestic product, and that's basically considered household earnings, owners, stuff that you own, your cars, your homes, I guess your money, your physical assets and stuff like that, valued at $221 trillion. 48% of it is in the hands of 1.2% of the overall population. That's about 65 million people. On the other hand, 98.8% of the population is essentially distributed among that 98.8% of the population is 52% of the world's gross domestic product and $244 trillion. So this is looking at it in a different way, in the sense basically that that's the 1.2%. And here's the 98.8%. And you're seeing, so is this simply a matter of haves and have nots? Is this a matter of oppression, or all these other ways of explaining this disparity, for which they're trying to come up with ways of reparations and other things they're literally talking about, because they want to try to help even things out, which is never going to happen, for one thing, and is not dealing with the real causes. So let's say you get the reparations and you give these folks something, not to mention the fiscal impossibility of it. But see, this it's all imagined anyway. So they're creating something. But here it is, it's not requiring or involving the volitional choice of people to imagine and do differently themselves. These efforts relative to um, this disparity that we're talking about, these are the results of habits formed and repeated over and over again and not considered. And as long as some people think, okay, so first of all, you got government people, for example, promising all of these different things. They're promising this, they're promising that. And people have been worn down, and now they listen to the promise. So they'll sit back and wait about fixing something because they don't have a sufficient supply now of funds coming in. Their habits have not resulted in them having a sufficient supply of exchangeable value. What we do is we decide what is of value. We decide and we convert what we think of as value into activity that brings and converts that into something referred to as money. Now, another aspect of the consciousness of today and the consciousness that we have lived through for several hundreds or thousands of years, maybe thousands of years, but certainly a millennia. But it has had to do with convincing people that they are not worth much, and having them to define their worth by the stuff they have, the standing that they have, the titles that they have, and some of them are bought, some of them are given under the table, all kind of reasons. No ethics whatsoever. I'm going to say whatsoever, but okay, to be fair, some ethics do exist, but in our day and age, it is the lack of it is much more open and evident. You know, have you had someone barge into your text messages on your phone now? Oh, are we getting together for pizza tomorrow? It's a, hey Kay, are you doing this or that tomorrow, etc., etc.? And you're saying, what? Well, the object of those things are to get you to engage, to interact with him, even if you're angry, to interact and you want to clear things up. And this is all harmless. But the people who are doing this know that you are not uh, Jim or Aloysius. They know this. They're getting and they're intending to get you because you don't want to be, you don't be bothered by what they're doing. You might even tell them your name and stuff like that, uh, so that they are clear. You know, it's not who you are. This is who I am. You're not so and so. But if you give them your phone, even your name, and they got your phone number, they got two important pieces of information. Okay. My response to those activities, I do a response, but it's simply to delete them. I give them nothing. I give them no information whatsoever, because I at least understand they are not themselves genuine. We have to start deciding. We're people are starting to crown AI as going to be the next ruler of humanity. That's just an idea. It's just a thought, but it's from someone who don't understand their own nature, their own human nature. And that's really the issue. We're not here to make money. We are here to understand who we are and to exercise our human nature and actually learn how to do it and how to be it even better human beings, more powerful human beings, freer human beings, more abundant, wealthier. So it's not about not having money. You're not here to make it. It's not wrong to have it. Ultimately, you make it from a consciousness where you know your value. You never lose your value, your sense of value. You start to regain the meaning of your word no. When you say no, it's because you mean it. And because it's better for someone who is hearing this to heed that, as opposed to continuing willy-nilly making more errors that we are seeing that is so clear to everyone who actually values life. You got to value life, and you are life. And then you start seeing the error of many of these activities that are being done right now, and which are being considered as requirement. You got to have this. You got to do this. Excuse me. No, I don't. Okay. Next thing. That symbol is called He Hua. He Hua, and it just means peace. I did this by hand, digitally, but it's by hand, my hand. So this picture here is um, happening in many parts of the world and closer to our homes than we probably are comfortable, that most people are comfortable. But imagine the comfort or discomfort of the people for whom this is their home. See, to me, improving the world, talking about peace and stuff like that, it's nice, but not shooting at someone is not peace alone. There's some other things. Being healthy is part of that peace. Being clear of certain stresses, loving your ability to be your best is really, really an important part of peace. And I dare say the people who are living under these particular conditions, I'm not here to judge them whatsoever. I respect them. Many of these people, they've served, they've listened to all the stories, they've done all the agreeing and complying and everything else for you can say for our country, if you listen to various narratives. But this is what it's gotten them. Okay. Or should I say, I can also say this is what they've gotten themselves. Ultimately, everyone can be helped. Everyone can help themselves given the proper, I'll say, uh, direction and examples. And so, what excites me is the possibility of of helping these people to see that they can help themselves and showing them a way that they can literally help change their entire way of living, because they're going to feel real good about themselves. Their spirits, their light is going to shine very, very brightly when they do this. And the beauty of it is that the activity required is not that much. The money required is not that much. And I can say the value, so to speak, the monetary value is not that much. What's next? So, life is imaginal. Imagine having enough to live the life you want to live, to be able to exchange value with others in a limitless, abundant world and universe. Well, you are in a limitless, abundant world and universe now. So that part is totally already set. The world and, oh, excuse me, the world and universe are here now. Where are you? So to be enough or not to be enough, that is the question. and only excuse me. I'm saying and only you can answer. And since I did write this down below, said it only you can answer that. Okay. Forgive them, for they know not what they do to themselves. This was also in the Bible, and I just kind of added something. Forgive them, for they know not what they do to themselves. The people, anyone who is not in a peaceful state now, not in an abundant state now. And so again, not being in an abundant state doesn't mean that you have a whole bunch of money. You can be in an abundant state without having a lot of money, and you can have a whole bunch of money and be, quite frankly, desolate spiritually. And if you got one choice or another, the point is the universe don't care. You can choose either one or both, and it's all the same thing because it's your experience. You're going to want be the one that liberates yourself from whatever trap you put yourself in, or others have put you in because you didn't know. They didn't know either. They didn't know what they were doing to themselves to even deign to do it to you. So forgive them. Forgive yourself. These are things that we need to do. And I'll keep it at need to do that. So here we go. I found this graphic someplace and I made some changes actually up here. I don't recall what it said originally, but all of this was just, gave me a smile. But here, official narrative. This one in this direction is promoted but wrong. This one is suppressed, but it's the right one. It's the one that is of benefit of gain, and it leads people to a higher perspective that they can see what's happening, and they can make even greater, even wiser decisions. That's where we want to go, and one way or another is where we're going. So now here we go. Notice the following presentation introduces a protocol supported by a very specific way of thinking and being that will exercise, enrich, lift, and expand the health of the human mind and spirit. So, all of this has been and is about the human mind and spirit. Any benefit beyond that is ancillary and coincidental. Your benefit is directly related to how well you apply the principles that follow. And I know I'm in the last part of this. So, part 3, wealth by hook and crook, okay, or by the golden rule. I'm going to just move to the next one and see did I explain this or show this in the next slide in terms of where we're going. And I here we go. Click. Does this in a graphic kind of get an idea? We talk about that, chasing the money and where's the money, etc. And we got so many people who are doing this, and yet even upon the realization, even upon the succeeding, so to speak, of catching those funds, etc., you're still left oftentimes with not just with the emptiness. You're left with the emptiness because the idea that enough, too much is never enough, doesn't go away. I used to see that with in when I followed sports, more than I do now. I'm not all that big into being fans for teams and stuff. At least as far as the pro sports and stuff like that. Tennis, I still kind of like, and I will watch some of them. Like I'll watch the football and stuff like that, but um, it's not with the weight. It doesn't have the weight it had when I was younger, earlier in life. But the thing about it was this: I recall when they were these athletes, baseball, etc. They started getting this a number of millions of dollars every year, or in some cases every game, or whatever, depending on the sport. And you got into these wage wars, these competitive salary wars, where okay, well this one just broke the so and so barrier, and now this next one, their contract is up, and they got to have this because so and so got that, and they got to have more than so and so, blah blah blah, etc etc etc. And the fact of the matter is, it was never enough. They were making more than most people, most of their fans would ever imagine, oftentimes in a lifetime, or certainly over decades or over a career. And it was never satisfying. There was not a speck of gratitude in what they did or what they showed. You look at some of these athletes now; they've succeeded. Many of the stories that were being told as I was coming up, that were themselves not true until people broke barriers. Some of whom did it before I came on this planet. I'm thinking of Jesse Owens in the Olympics, and in the 1936 Olympics. I'm also thinking about Lou Gehrig. A lot of people don't know about Lou Gehrig, who was an Ironman in terms of his health, his longevity, his staying power as an athlete. But when conversations start arising relative to the addition of black folks, so to speak, into baseball as an example, and some people start taking some public umbrage to that possibility, uh, Garrick spoke up. He said, it was not to the attitude of the not unwelcoming attitude of the integration. Was There was no place for that in baseball. That was the position that Lou Gehrig actually presented, and it was really interesting how, when after with the longevity and the health and the picture of health that he was, after he took that position and public position, this was in the 1930s, he then got this um, mysterious illness, so to speak, and he faded away from the scene. They even named the condition. They called it Lou Gehrig's disease. And so people have had conscience. People have had consciousness. They've demonstrated this throughout time, and yet that has still been the exception and not the rule. It's time for it to become the rule, but we have to, and we will at some point in time. You do it by raising your consciousness. We are 8 billion souls with forms, and we are augmented by how many more who don't have forms that are still associated with the progression and the evolution of the people, the living beings of this planet. This is really an important point, is that you cannot grow to a better place in a lower state of consciousness. It just won't happen for people. And it's not saying that everyone is that way. Clearly, if everyone was that way, the worst things that you can imagine would have happened. People are trying to make certain things happen because they believe they are going to, and some of them won't be happy until, for example, some people think Christ is coming back. He's going to be coming back. I don't know in what. It's not going to be in a chariot, probably be an updated model of something, or maybe he'll just appear and ready to kick ass and take names. I don't see that this as happening. I see the Christ as coming as something that exists within you, within myself, and we are the embodiment of the Christ consciousness, and the Christ consciousness certainly treats others the way we want to be treated, and we treat ourselves the way we want others to treat us. This is what Christ consciousness is in reality, and it comes through each and every one of us. But ultimately, we won't be moved by the desire to chase money and live in that perpetual state of emptiness. The point basically is we go into a place of wholeness ourselves. We become filled by the highest aspects of ourselves, which are love and truth and beauty and peace. Those are available to us now. You don't have to pray for something that you already are. We are already equals. We're talking about eradicating inequality or disequity. We're trying to fight for equality, for example. Again, it's something that you already are. So here we go. The loving inward movement of consciousness creates a vortex of value. And essentially, the image on the left is the way and how we see money now. We see them as lump sums and bags and things like that. But what we are doing, we're in the process in this protocol that I'm about to show, is we are in the process of creating what essentially will become a moving vortex of funds of value, okay, that will come to each person that does these things. So let us see what's next here. Golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And and that's the yin of it. The yang of it is the converse, but the same thing. Treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. Okay? It's the same thing. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Treat yourself as you'd have others to treat you. And in other words, and frankly, you treat yourself the way you want others to treat you, because you set the standard for how others will treat you. When others are not treating you with the regard that you treat yourself, then this is where you start saying no to the other. Okay, and they have the option to change how they come at you, or how they present themselves, or their ideas, or whatever to you, or they can go pound sand. All right, but you can give, everyone has a choice, but we need to be practicing, and not simply practicing. Do it. What did Yoda say? There's do not. There's no try. I'm going to add that to a slide. This image here, I'm sure, will bring something to mind. You know, the situation of people will look at it, and they will either evaluate or judge themselves or others by how they interpret this. Well, is the glass half empty or the glass half full? Hmm. What would you say to that? What do you think? Uh, well, the question is here: is there another way of looking at this? Is it just that? I've gone, not that I think about this a long time, I the way it's presented, you tend to think about it. This whole idea about words again, words being your God, because unless you stop and look at and evaluate what something means, they're going to simply work within your consciousness or your subconscious all the time. So in this case, we're used to seeing um, and responding to whether the glass is half empty or half full. And so, okay, in that context, well, I would consider myself one that, that's a half full glass. So that makes me an optimist, right? Well, you could say that, but another way of looking at this is that that glass is at half capacity. Ooh, there's another way of looking at this. And, quite frankly, that covers everything. It's at half capacity. It has the capacity to handle, to take in more. And not only that, it literally has the capacity to accept a flow. Whereas, that glass may hold 8 ounces, it may hold 16 ounces, it doesn't matter. But if you got a flow going in, you get to a place where it is overflowing, and now there's capacity of that essence that it can hold, and that it can contain and share with others. And quite frankly, it's limitless. And in the same way that we tend to work for this thing called money, and we do it in these fits and starts, we do this activity, and even before we do this activity, many, many people have simply, because of what they think their qualifications are, they've gone to where they think they can be accepted, oftentimes in desperation. And then you're stepping in front of someone who's going to attempt to convince you to work for them. but for as little as they can get away with paying you. This, you don't think this causes stress and adds to stress and dissatisfaction that people are experiencing? Well, uh, change it. So finally, oh my goodness. So you're getting this right off the bat. The platform that I am talking about is called Co-op 20. The protocol, the methodology of how this works is different. And essentially, it is a platform that takes into account several things. And I'll give you a little background. I said before that we have been doing money and value, our habits are several hundred years of age. Even the present monetary system, which began with a deception. So you could say the original lie, yeah, until a lie is an error, okay? But nonetheless, it was done. So the original deception came at its inception by Mayor Rothschild, and as war, what is his name? Napoleon Bonaparte was having his battle at Waterloo, and Rothschild had an agent there watching things. And then when it turned out that Napoleon lost at Waterloo, Rothschild's agent, with a carrier pigeon, put down Napoleon lost. Okay, tied it to his carrier pigeon and sent it off to London, and got it to Rothschild. Rothschild checks it out. Oh, okay. So he goes to the London stock market and says that Napoleon won. Yeah, I just got back. Napoleon won. That set off a panic in this, and people were selling their stocks on pennies, on the shilling or whatever they were doing at that time. Pennies on the pound, shillings on the pound. And so he was taking all this in, knowing the truth, but perfectly comfortable not sharing it. All right. And so that filled his coffers very nicely. Okay, the word came out that, well, Napoleon actually lost. Ha 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 ha. And now what they had to do, there weren't any money back guarantees in those days or satisfaction. They had to simply buy them back. And they bought those properties, those stocks and stuff back at a much higher price. So Rothschild made out quite handsomely in the sense, but he was a winner. They had to be losers. This is a zero-sum game system where there are winners and losers, and not only between the Rothschild and the other stock brokers or whatever was happening during those days, but it's in the interactions with everyone between government and the people, especially the crown and the people of those ages. But it's also today. There's still this thing and this idea of a finiteness of amount of value, and then there's the jockeying back and forth for control or possession or influence of that value. And ultimately, what happens as far as the people are concerned, especially with their education system and their social systems too, where you got some ruler that you got to be subject to, is like they are big, they matter, and you don't. It's in like in the religions. Jesus is big and you're small. God is big and somewhere else on a golf course someplace don't have time for you. You deal with some of his people, so to speak. These are stories that we've passed on for a long time, and we've imagined as the way things are without questioning them and actually feeling we're not capable of questioning these things, much less changing and embracing something else. And so and therefore we're living, this is the fantasy. In many, I'll say esoteric books, they call this an illusion. And in some regards it is, but it's not in the way people are thinking. It is an illusion in the sense that much of what we see is lacking in truth, in love, and in authenticity, in a sense of connectedness to all things and everyone. We are living in a society and a culture acting as though there's physicality and non-physicality, when in fact physicality doesn't exist except for the non-physicality that informs it, that attracts all things, all life, and all of the substances and materials and the elements, and they interact, and they are actually facilitated also through the water that passes and courses through it, waters that we don't see, that's inside us, and waters that we don't see, that is outside of us, that is still conferring information on multiple dimensions and multiple planes. And we're using these forms while we are here. But when we're done, we pull the plug. Life isn't pull the plug on us. We pull the plug on the form. We got it backwards, and we've been living backwards. We've been living where up is down and down is up. So essentially, we have created the habit due to our thinking, putting someone on a pedestal, chasing, shadows that you'll never catch, etc., etc. Instead of realizing that we are the power, we are the creator, we are the value and we are the equals. If we think and do with an equal quality of thinking and doing, we can anticipate equal quality of response. Quality of response. It doesn't mean it'll be the same response. Everything is going to be unique, but the quality of it can be the same, because based on how you do things, based on how you go forth and see the value, not only in yourself, but in others, in everyone, in all of life, because all is interconnected, you then become receiving back of that same regard from life, from living beings. Money is not a living thing. You are. You're having money and expecting something fulfilling to come back to you. Keep trying. It ain't going to happen. So the change that we want to make, that should be made, that needs to be made, is one of regard of our consciousness, and essentially is moving into a state of consciousness, of connectedness and interconnectedness with everything and everyone. And it doesn't mean you're going to now become and act like a monk or like some guru or something like that. You're literally going to be yourself. But yourself is also going to be one that allows certain things, that operates at a certain quality, because as yourself, you are powerful. And right now, you may not see yourself that way. And if you don't see yourself as powerful now, there's some I'm just going to say some components and some pieces in your worldview that you need to look at or be willing to consider changing. And it's not just your worldview, but once you start to do that, and the map of consciousness will help along those lines, then your spirits start to rise. Your regard starts to rise. Your excitement and your enthusiasm begins to rise. This is evidence of being fulfilled again by life and by your own actions, by the ecosystem of the cosmos, because what you put out, you start getting back, reflected back to you, and you feel it and you're nourished by it. And then when you use and get into that particular place in your consciousness and consciousness and that connectedness, now you go into this thing called Co-op 20 and start to rebuild your store of value, a negotiable store of value that could be considered wealth. So let me explain this just quickly. Now I want to be quick. Okay, I've talked this long. So Co-op 20 it's a system that is built on the principles of cooperation. It is built on the principles of the golden rule, doing unto others as you have others do unto you, and treating yourself as you'd have others to treat you. And so we're talking about reciprocity, the circle of life, what's something going put out and returning back to you in-kind return back to you. So you put out with a certain attitude, a certain regard, if you will, a certain intention, and you do some steps, which we were talking about here, and I'll cover, and then something will come back to you. And so let's see. The Co-op 20 site is launching on October 15th, 2023. However, it is open and functioning right now. So it's accessible to and doable by anyone. It's free to join through a referral link. And in my description below, I will put a link. And see, that's another thing. I'm looking at my new, I'm looking at this platform, but the message is going out. I will be able to give an email address and a way to reach me and contact me. Because I got to do something, okay? And in the beginning, it's okay, it's fine. So this is it's based on referral link. It's also where you take an amount of money, you convert it into a cryptocurrency equivalent of 60 some odd dollars. You're going to, for that 60 some odd dollars that you put into this system, you're going to get and obtain 3 tokens. These are simply packets of information. And what you're going to basically do is invite 3 people that you know, or people that you don't know, but 3 people that are willing to do just what you did, who are willing to take this 60 some odd dollars. It's less than $70 for getting with the transfer fees too, but the token itself is $20, and you're getting three of those tokens. And so you are talking to people, or if this talk, as long as it is meaningful, you realize we've been doing and thinking about money and interacting with it in a certain way for 1,000 some odd years, and doing such things with our monetary system for almost 200 years, or certainly well over 100 years. We've been doing that, those habits. There have been no alternatives until Bitcoin in 2009, 2010. Then that had to come up. Then the altcoin community, which came up after Bitcoin did what it did. You talk about shoulder. Then Ethereum came up, then Litecoin, and now so many others. So they have shown up. And now an infrastructure has been built, all by life, all by human beings, all by people who care. And so this system, however, until this cooperative system, all of these other systems, even Bitcoin, even the altcoin space, because people were making money by trading. So in other words, your value you created, if you do whatever you can by whatever means to create enough value to put into one of these systems, now you're selling, you're doing micro selling and stuff like that. You have to give that value away, and you also risk losing it, because it's still been a zero-sum game system. Okay. And there's transfers. There are people who are in that mindset of giving or winning. And then there are people who are in the mindset of losing and or taking, so to speak, and who don't have a problem with profiting at your expense. And those people can be anywhere. I talked about the robocallers, and someone's coming in on the pretense of, oh, this is just a mistake, and they want to simply engage with you, and they ultimately don't care anything about you. They want to get to whatever resources they think they can get from you. This has become what essentially is the rule rather than the exception in this society. Well, it's not possible in this cooperative system. Co-op 20, which I call the baby cooperative, was created by a guy who at one time in his life was homeless, and he wanted to create something that would allow anyone to actually change, you could say, the financial course of their life. But the financial course of anyone's life is first influenced and dependent upon their state of consciousness and the oneness ability, the oneness awareness within that consciousness. This is essentially what prompted and inspired the creation of the map of consciousness that I created. And you can find it at loveishome.co. I'm still working out how to present it or make it available to people who want to use it for self assessment. This is about recalibrating, resetting our consciousness to factory specs. That's what this is about. And so the things that can be done in the normal sense of making money, so to speak, are not possible in the cooperative system, in this co-op 20 system. And on the other hand, the results are literally beyond what is possible by doing it the other way. You get the best of what's possible by putting the best of who you are into it. So that's what happens. You obtain 3 tokens, you talk to people, and when you have invited 3 people who do the same thing that you've done, when they say they're going to do it, then you send them one of your tokens of invitation. And so you're now connecting them through your invitation, through your sponsorship to join, you could say, the club, if you will, the cooperative. And now they will receive the 3 tokens, at which point in time they will have conversations like this and invite 3 and send it. When someone says, yes, I will do it, they're calling it pay it forward. But ultimately, when someone says, yes, I want to do this, please send me an invitation. You send them one of your links. Now, in so doing, what happens? This is all happening in virtual space relative to the movement of this value. But the value that you put in is real value. It's associated, it's dollar, US dollar equivalents. Everything is calculated in US dollars, but it's all done in the crypto space. So it's not done in dollars. You put crypto in, the valuations are accrued as more people open wallets and fund those wallets and fund the system. It is a 100% liquid system, and the funds are only showing up. Someone today asked me, well, what's the market cap of this company? The market cap of this company is immaterial because the funds that will go and come to you are not in the system until you put some of your own in. You put some of your own funds in, and it is immediately distributed to 6 members in a certain formula, which the member can take out as much as they want. Although it behooves them to keep at least $20 of value in their system, in their wallet, because you do get a digital wallet that is private, that is blockchain based. It's on the Ethereum and Solana blockchain. So you got a dual blockchain wallet, and you can fund with over 100 different cryptocurrencies. It will take anything you got. You just turn it to the 60 some odd dollars. It will tell you what the amounts are. In other videos, I will simply show you these things. I'm explaining how it works right now. But ultimately, what happens is this: when the 3 people that you invite who do the same thing, and now your first step is to have 3. Your second step, and that has you're an active member of the system. But your next step and your next goal is to simply help the people that you've invited to succeed in inviting their 3 who activate too. That will basically give you 3 first, and you are going to receive every 28 days from that 3. And then the 3 that each 3 invites, which becomes their first 3, you're going to receive from them too, because when your first people join, your funds were apportioned to 6 people, and now when they join, their funds are apportioned to 6 people. So you plus 5 others, so to speak. Now you're going to help them to succeed at getting their 3, which will be 9 new people whose wallets are funneled through your wallet. So now you have 12 people whose every 28 days there's going to be funds coming through to you from them. Not the same amount as the people that invited them, but still every 28 days. When that 9 start sending their invitations out, now there's 27 people, and you can help or not help. The people that invited them will help them because they are a part of their 9, so to speak. You see how this Do you start seeing how this work? What you're passing on is a behavior and an attitude that is positive, and it is positively reinforced because every time someone funds, all the people in the chain of their lineage receive. And when you have 3 plus your three's 3, which is 9 more or 12, you take another position. You're now qualified. First, you're active. You're active through all of this. But when you've got 3 and plus 9 and 12 who are active, you are qualified. And therefore, there is an additional amount, 25% of income, that the system has held in abeyance until you became qualified, that now comes to you. And in addition to that, because these are coming every 28 days, in addition to that, the system you are qualified to receive through the fullness of the levels. Remember that you give to 6, and you're setting up with these tokens so that 6 levels of people will be giving back. You will be receiving from 6 levels. Your first level has 3, and each succeeding level has 3 times the previous one. So by the time you get to the 6th level, you've got 729 on that level alone, and 243 and 81 and etc. At 27 stuff that comes in, but they're all connected to your wallet. And so you start creating a stream of income that actually continues to grow. There's one of the things about this particular system where he calls it a follow me automatic return and a follow me system. And it basically means that when this matrix fills with 1,092 people, the system will create a new collective and continue to grow and accrue funds. Now, this is one part I don't understand, but because his other cooperatives are larger and slightly different, but I do understand. I figured it out and saw just what was possible. I'm going to take him on his word, because unless I have the attitude, it won't happen for me. It will happen for people who have the attitude to simply do this and see what occurs. But in all of his cooperatives, they all create a matrix, a vortex of value that comes to each one, that is protected because they are blockchain based. And because people are using these funds, it's available to anyone, anywhere on the planet. And they can also, as a member of the cooperative, you can exchange value between members. You can make purchases, but instead of worrying about and thinking only about being able to pay a monthly bill, which typically is going up, you're going to have a flow of income coming in, which is more than enough to convert into fiat value, that you can not only simply pay those bills, but more so, you can go into a place and pay them off. You can now start to imagine yourself literally, if you want to buy a home, you have the value because of your in-kind receipt and the protection thereof. You literally have it. You have a situation here where even if someone, so to speak, robs you, so to speak, misinformed you, lied to you, whatever, and out of your trust, you allowed them to take from you. which most of the time people get all in the doldrums about because they work so hard. It's not an issue with this cooperative because this value is moving and it comes to you repeatedly it repeats every 28 days, 13 times a year from each member whose wallet is connected to yours. And the group of people whose wallets are connected to yours will be unique. No two groups of supply of givers, so to speak, of donors, of whatever, how you want to say this, no two are the same. This mimics nature. This mimics the way that life works more than anything I've ever seen. So I know I've got more slides here, but they're not the ones, they don't have the animation. So I'm going to take a look. I'll give you a Cliff's Notes version of it. Uh, this is a picture of the Co-op 20 site. As I mentioned, as of this date, this is still in pre-launch. However, when you join and see right now, you can't even see where my mouse is. I would need to uh, go from this to and share my screen. But you got the gist of this. I'm gonna spare you and perhaps spare myself at the moment. But this is how it looks. A new entire website is being built, and so by the 15th of October, there will be a full site on this. But joining now and funding your wallet now and interacting, uh, you start to receive as soon as someone else says they're going to do the same that you did, and you send them one of your tokens. Now, what I will be doing when you reach out to me, if you watch this long, thank you from the bottom of my heart. But I will say an email address. I'm pondering. Yeah, I will say an email address. Just Adam at um, G Y O Y GYO wealth, grow your own wealth.com. And what I'm going to do, because I have I have a bunch of email addresses, but I'm going to look over here real quickly. I don't get a lot. Yes, that's it. .com. Grow your own wealth.com. So GYO wealth, WEALTH.com. Adam at GYOwealth.com. Now, real quickly, there are two other cooperatives in this system that work on the exact same principle, except they're larger. One is Co-op 28, which is a 3x10 matrix, and the amount of money is about the same. But what it does is beyond most people's belief in their present way of looking at life. Everyone is going to immediately and automatically compare this to what they've seen before, because before a year or so ago, nothing else existed. The cooperative method that David Rosen created, he created this about 20 years ago, but it has been dismissed by so many people. And also, it works differently. So, this is not even his 20-year-old system, which still works today. But he did create this Co-op 28 system about a year ago, and it had all the components, and it has all of the same components, except that what it produces is far more outside of the realm of most people's belief and most people's consciousness. It wasn't outside of mine. So, Josh, I started to think this through, and holy wow, this is amazing. But people have to be of a consciousness that imagine this kind of reality. I have imagined it, and here it is. So my next step is to do what I can to explain this in such a way that you might imagine it too. Because I can, for the co-op 20, for the co-op 20 matrix, three is the minimum number. you can invite more than three. But if three others join, you're going to want to help them get their three. You want to help them succeed simply because they join. It may be 15 people. There's a lady in South Africa for whom over 40 people have joined her directly. And so the next step is to help people conceptualize this. Again, we have been doing this thing called money, not caring about anyone else other than just simply caring about getting what we need for ourselves or want for ourselves for many, many generations. There's been nothing else. So people are naturally going to consider that this is like something else that they've seen. There are people who see that and hear about this as being a crypto thing and think it's like something else they've seen. It is not. It doesn't work the same way. The funds that you receive through the co op system and through this cooperative activity is indifferent to the fluctuations in value of the crypto itself or even of the dollars or even of stocks. All of the stocks and everything else, they're still a part of a zero sum game system, which has some limits, some winners and losers, and which has the ever present concern over loss. All right. This system does not. If you don't put the attitude in, you will not get what the best of what this system offers you. So this is the picture of the co-op, they call it B, co-op business. But you can access this through your dashboard in co-op 20. So um, these are things to do. These are things I didn't get in my original. It's just, and I've really explained all this. I've explained that you get a referral link in my description. I will put a referral link, or you email me, I will send you a referral link. I also want to help the people who have already joined at my invitation if they are presently needing an additional um, link to complete their three. I want to assist them as well. However, the goal here is for people to know and embrace this enough and internalize this that they can share, that they can do enough to simply get them to someone to watch this kind of a talk and then listen and then make a decision for themselves. Then you go to back to the person that introduced this to you and use their ask for their referral link so you can get started. It will certainly help me, but it helps everyone. Even if it doesn't help me directly, but there's nothing that doesn't. Everything is connected to everything else. This is how we change the world. This is a kind of an idea. Here you are. Are the three that you invite, and here are the three that they invite. And every time, soon as oh, excuse me, here we go. I realize again, I'm pointing with my pointer, but you can't see it. So on the green line, that's your first level, and those are your direct. And those are the ones that receive your first three tokens. Now, if a fourth and a fifth and a 10th and a 20th person comes along that wants to join, you simply go into your back office and buy some more tokens. It costs you $20, but you send them to that new person, and then you start getting right back. As soon as they fund, you got part of your money back. When they've got their three, you got your money back, and their three have three, and then you're receiving. This is there's nothing like this. Okay. So what else do I have? It's a level value field instead of a playing field. One set of criteria that applies to all. There are no whales or minnows. 100% liquidity. All these things I've said. The system automatically moves the value between the active members. And let's see what else. This is a spiritual moment. What follows are just a few factors that make the co op system unique for all this time and age. All members are treated the same, true equality, one set of onboarding criteria for all, affordable by anyone. Rewards are based on higher qualities of the spirit. You have to exercise courage to step out of your familiar ways of doing things, quite frankly, and see, and more so, your familiar ways of being. See, we can't see and measure how we be, how we choose to be. Shakespeare talking about to be or not to be. Well, to be enough. We talked about that. We can't see or measure those things, but those are the factors that determine your state of consciousness and therefore the degree to which one is willing to step out of their familiar ways to create a new experience for them, even if it means being healthy again. See, on if we're acting on the level of the spirit, we're affecting all aspects of our experience and of our life, not simply the stuff called money. Okay. The money or the value that you receive, which you can exchange and convert into something called money, is just a secondary gain. It's not the most important thing. Positive reinforcement builds self confidence and esteem. Rewards are based on higher qualities of the spirit. I just went up a little bit to see. All distributions are in crypto value pegged to USD. Disbursements are in ETH and Ethereum. All funds are available to a member when delivered to the co op wallet. Income grows on its own as more people see positive results and share the good news with others. New value exchange habits are easily teachable to others. I see someone. New value, let's see. Cryptocurrency adoption is still low in most developed countries, but the rate will continue to accelerate. So weird. I just reading an article about Shakespeare. Then 5 seconds later, clicked on, and I'm talking. First word I hear was Shakespeare. Yeah, we're talking about some serendipity, huh? So yeah, yeah. I like when that happens. It's all cool. That talks about. I've been talking for what? How long? 2 hours and 11 minutes, and you're the first to come on and say something. And thank you for doing it. But I have certainly been talking about value and how to change paradigms and positively. So the positive change in consciousness by newly affluent and happy classes of people around the world will likewise impact geopolitical relations. And see, no one has been factoring in the state of consciousness of people and knowing that it will impact. If we are being impacted by the state of consciousness of others, then you know something, you can go to a higher state of consciousness within yourself. And I will say, if we're being impacted negatively, if we're feeling more anxious, if we're feeling more insecure and stuff like that because of what we've heard from someone else that we think has some standing, then by raising our own state of consciousness, it goes the other way. Life is reciprocal, and we can do things that are in our benefit, so to speak. Let me see here. Why this now? Because I know I only have a couple slides left, so I'll read this. Why this now? While stigmatized and resisted by financial insiders since its inception, I said its exception, but I have to have meant inception. Cryptocurrencies have been instrumental in allowing people to obtain necessary goods and services. Boy, I've seen this in a number of different countries. Venezuela, which has fallen out of favor with the people that run this thing called money in this society. But also in Pakistan, I was just learning about this a couple of weeks ago, where the government is really said we will never legalize cryptocurrencies while they're putting the squeeze on their people. And so a lot of merchants have decided to embrace cryptocurrencies, and it is a way that people are actually now being able to live and exchange value. This is happening all over the world. In Afghanistan, I was listening to some women at this Peace Week symposium, and they were talking about issues and stuff relative to women in the country of Afghanistan. It turns out that just a couple of years ago, cryptocurrency adoption in Afghanistan was virtually non-existent, and now cryptocurrency adoption in Afghanistan is the country of Afghanistan is number 20 in the world based on this article I read, I think maybe by CoinDesk or something like that. It's so cryptocurrencies are being adopted now in other parts of the world, which will in fact continue. I'll say guarantee its continuance. More and more people are using cryptocurrencies themselves. Now, they're still not necessarily using cooperation, but people can cooperate. I talked to some of those people in Pakistan, for example. They can get they can join co-op business. They can join co-op 20. They'll get a co-op wallet, and all they got to do is invite 3 people to do the same thing. They got to scrap up $60, 60 some odd dollars. It's the same amount no matter where you are, no matter on the planet, and the numbers will continue. Now, when a person has several thousand coming in every 28 days in Pakistan and in Afghanistan or South Africa, there are a whole bunch of people in Africa and South Africa in particular that are members of Co-op 20, and they are doing this. 2,000, 3,000, 5, 10, 20,000 in value every 28 days, and it keeps coming. Okay. This is a different way. This is the kind of money, this is the kind of value I want to have, a stream that I want to create for myself, but it works for anyone and anywhere. Let's see. Blockchain technology allows for the direct exchange of value, peer to peer, anywhere in the world. Gosh, I said that. The cryptocurrency infrastructure is mature enough to function as a better way to create, accrue, and exchange value with others. The cooperative system allows anyone and everyone to participate because its performance is not not biased to anyone's favor and having more to deposit. Again, I said no whales, no minnows. By exercising the highest aspects of one's spirit, each member creates and receives an ongoing stream of crypto value, which can be used as money, quote unquote. The system's full potential is opened up to each member who invites 3, and then when they have likewise done so. The benefits to the psyche and spirit are incalculable. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Reminders. And there you go. Treat yourself as you would have others treat you. And is this? I can't see this. This was an animated thing, and it was a thing about from this man I'd never heard before. A false conclusion once arrived at and widely accepted is not easily dislodged, and the less it is understood, the more tenaciously it is held. That is our social system, our cultural system in a nutshell. And so what we are literally doing is showing people how this was animated too. So the word I can't, I had X go through the T. I did some arithmetic on the word I can't because it becomes I can. And then from there, we added not only that, not only can I, but I will. And that's my last thought here. Love like there's no yesterday. And that, my friends, my friend, is my talk that I gave. Actually, in this case, this is the whole talk that I gave, the Great Value Reset at the Peace Week conference. And I actually ran out of my time slot. You see, I'm looking at here. I started talking 2 hours and 20 minutes ago. So I appreciate, I know you weren't there for the whole time, but now this will be present in its fullness. And I will put some annotations on maybe later tonight or in the morning where there are links and it can be watched. And, if the interest is there, and I will be doing more. But the point does bear repeating that we've been doing money in a certain mindset, at a certain consciousness, and I will say a certain low state of consciousness for the last millennia. I mean, you remember Jesus kicked the money changers out of the temple. Okay. So it's like there's some precedent for this. We're talking about a latter day. We don't have to kick them out. We simply are creating something that provides for us in the way that we want to be providing for. And we're going to feel good because we did it. We did it. We did it doing positive things. This, in essence, is protected from, it's a flow of funds. And as long as you can access your co op account and your account is on a blockchain, it's encrypted, it's all of these things, the technology, this is the next step that allows people to exercise their spirit, to raise their own sense of their own self, their own value, their own power, their own joy, their own peace. We don't have to wait till, and their own supply. We don't have to wait till 2030 for this to happen. This can happen before Christmas. This can happen now. So I'm striking a match and lighting say a fire, so to speak, and inviting you to join us. Join me, join us, etc. And let's make this happen. I will do more videos, and I'm going to be doing them more regularly and shorter. Okay. But they tend to come out as they come. I will also be doing this on TikTok at some point. This is a conversation or a niche I can speak on because I see it and I feel it. And when each person sees it and feel it, it's real. It exists then. All we got to do is just help people to see it and feel it and share it. And everyone will actually have the same quality of result. They will have blessings poured out that you can negotiate with, that you can exchange and get products and say and pay bills and everything else. But they have more coming in than you'll have room and even a mind to spend. That changes everything. I say with that, I'm going to check out. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging in with me. And I will see you the next time, probably sometime tomorrow. I'll work out the timing and everything else, but I am going to do this because I got things I need. I just got eye exams yesterday and I got to fix that. I maybe fix my grill. There are things to do, but there are bigger things that are fun as well for everyone. So with that, I'll say next time, peace, be well, be abundant, be prosperous, and I love you all. You take care now. There we go. Where we go? There we go. In that stream. Yes. Love like there's no yesterday. That I'm trying to get my mouse to this end stream button, but that little saying just came to me about 2 weeks ago now. I've only told it's the first time I've used it in a presentation. Anyway, take care.